Hello there. Can you hear me? Can you see me? Hello, hello. Can you hear me? Hello there. Okay, so please, just to make sure that you can hear me and you can see me, just say something or put the message in the chat.
Hello.
Oh, finally. Thank you. I was so afraid that something is going wrong. Okay, so everybody is joining us. Let's just wait for a moment. Yeah, so that all of the participants are here and we'll start. So far we have 17. I think that approximately 20 should join us. Okay, well, let's stick to 17 and yeah, then we'll begin. So basically, just a moment. I'm going to share my screen and we'll start and I'll explain what's going on in here. So welcome again to all of you, to all of the teachers, all of the new teachers that are joining our team. So yeah, basically today we are holding a webinar / seminar / workshop with all of the elements based on such a topic, plethora of materials out there and how to use authentic materials in your classroom or beyond your classroom as well. So basically, I'm going to present some of the information that I prepared, and I will also ask you to ask your questions, to give your feedback, just to make sure that we're on the same page. And I'm not sure that 1 hour is enough, just because I'm quite talkative, and I assume that there are going to be lots of questions. So if we're not done by 9 a.m. Moscow time and you have to go, just yeah, you can go because we're recording, and you will have an opportunity to watch it in recording. So yeah, my goal basically is not just to read the script for the sake of, box checking. I want you to make sure that right after this seminar / webinar, whatever, you will be able to create your tasks, your exercises based on TV series, YouTube videos, books, articles, podcasts, whatever materials you think is appropriate for the student to grip their attention. No matter how lucky you are from the very first attempt, just because the first step is always troublesome, but I'm here to help you. So let's begin. This is our presentation. And basically the most obvious question to start with is, who am I? Yeah. Some girl teaching you. So I'm one of the experts in our teacher training center. I've been working here for a while. Most of the time I've been an expert. And I also have vast experience in insolvency management, military translations, teaching online and offline. So, kind of complicated background, right? So let's begin. Here is our agenda. We're going to slowly but gradually go through the questions from why to how. Use authentic materials in our practice, even if you haven't used them before, right before. And despite the fact that this seminar is held within the, within our course, broadening your communication with the student, it doesn't really matter that we're talking only about this, just because all of the principles that we're going to learn today and to practice today with all of you, they are quite applicable to any stages of your course. You can use all of the tasks that we're going to build today during the lesson, in between the lessons. You can create the whole course if you try. So yeah, but the safest option to start getting your students familiarized with authentic materials is basically using them once in a while, supplementary task, just to keep them interested. And this is the scope of this seminar. So just to make sure that we're talking about one and the same thing, a moment, I will move the video a little bit. I want to ask a couple of questions to you, just to make sure that we're talking about one and the same thing. What do we understand by authentic materials? Who can tell us? Who's the brave one?
Well, I can try if you
Go on.
nobody. Okay, so authentic materials are those which are from another sources, not from the platform itself, I guess, and probably even not from textbooks. They are just pieces of information we found interesting somewhere in the internet. Yes, I think that's it. No?
Exactly. You're right. I can only add that here we mean something that was created by native speakers for native speakers, not for educational purposes as well. Yeah, but generally it's everything we can find beyond just, student books. Then additional question to all of you. Is it really necessary to use authentic materials if you're teaching a person another language? How do you think? I see nodding. I agree. Maybe we have someone who has different opinion.
So I can tell
Mhm.
that I think using the authentic materials is really necessary because especially if a person is going to go abroad and so he's in this sphere when there are lots of authentic words, slang, or something like that. So it is important to know not only the program of book or even platform, but also some foreign features.
Yep, exactly. That's real language, in other words. Exactly. Do you think there are some limits, or maybe there aren't any limits, in using authentic materials with students? Maybe about the level, maybe about the goal, anything like that.
Hi.
Hmm?
Yes, I think we should provide material depending on the student's level. Because for beginner and elementary students, we also have to show what the real language is, but of course in a more simple way. And for more advanced students, so we can use more difficult authentic material so that they could see where they need to grow and what they need to improve to be able to read, to understand the real world, the real English speaking world. Also, we should think of the student's goals. So, for example, if the student is interested in medicine and we give him some like speech of some politician, so it's not really interesting, and for him it's not relevant. So we should search for something based on a student's goals.
Exactly. Agree. So definitely it must correspond to their goals, not necessarily the level. We are going to work with that in the second part of this webinar. Yeah, but of course we cannot just give a whole movie or piece of news, one episode of news to a beginner or elementary, and then have them watch this whatever whatever kind of media we're providing or read it, and then ask, "What's your opinion?" Yeah, that would be kind of no, not appropriate. So, and this leads us to our last question here. What are some difficulties using authentic materials? Because it's quite a controversial topic. That's a real point of contention in the teaching world.
Well, I think that sometimes some things just can't be described as a rule. Like, this is that when you see it. So it's a very peculiar usage of a language, which is just, that's it, that's language. They say like this, and we have to remember it. So it is, we can't explain it to our students as a rule. We just have to feel it, something like idioms maybe.
Yeah, agree. It might be just way too overwhelming. Too many exceptions, too many examples,
Yeah.
too many grammatical structures which are unknown. Yeah, that's the main difficulty. Maybe there is anything else to bear in mind. Anyone? What about the motivation? Using authentic materials, does it raise or decrease the motivation of the student?
I think it also depends on the level and difficulty of the material. If, for example, if we give to the student something that is too difficult for him, he may be disappointed and that he understands nothing and that there's nothing he can do about it, and that he needs a lifetime to get to reach this limit. But if the opposite, we give something that student understand maybe 80%, but he sees this 20% what he needs, where he needs to get better at, and so this motivates him to learn because he's almost there. He's almost ready to understand our authentic material.
Mm-hmm. Agree, definitely. That's again, I will repeat myself. That's a real point of contention because it's really, really dangerous to use authentic materials if we do not know how. Again, if we just throw in some video, we as teachers understand it, but we get the student who doesn't get a word from that, motivation is going to be just zero at the end of such lesson, at the end of such exercise, because come on, I didn't understand anything, and I don't really see how to do that, and we're not giving appropriate tools for understanding everything that is being said or written in there. Basically, yep. But if the student feels that he or she might actually finish the exercise successfully, they might do at least something with this piece of real world. Yeah. But then, of course, it would have very, very positive influence on our motivation. Good. So thank you all for sharing your opinion. We'll move on. And here we're going to talk about the kind of support, the kind of tools that we are providing our students with. Yeah. So as I said, the key in here is not to leave the student alone with the materials that we provide. Other than that, I mean, we can do so if we have something adapted to their level, yeah, so that they kind of, they can manage it by themselves. So here in this little diagram, you can see like the combination of support and level of support and level of challenge. The vertical challenge axis illustrates what the student does during the class or like during the course. Yeah, so the student might be involved in regularly involved, yeah, in intellectually challenging tasks, high thinking, or just low challenge drilling, simple questions, nothing specific, kind of laid back education, anything like that. Or it might be something in between along the continuum. And the horizontal support axis illustrates what the teacher does. From low support, no tools, no exercises, no explanations, nothing, to high support, like overly supportive teacher, yeah, and all of those, axes, they form 4 quadrants with different zones of education, yeah, learning zones, teaching and learning zones. My question to all of you: which zone out of those 4 would most likely engage you and provide you with the most productive learning environment? Anyone? Anyone?
Everyone is so afraid, and I'm speaking like for the 3rd time. But
I
still,
shouldn't have told
I'm
that,
one
that
of
we're
20.
recording.
Yeah.
How come?
Yeah,
Guys, speak, please.
Yeah, the same situation. Yes.
Don't be silent. Like, it's
We're
20 of
just sharing
us.
our opinion.
Yes, I give a chance to speak to other students. So okay, I'll wait for 1 minute.
Yeah, we'll wait. Anyone? remember yourself as a student, or maybe you have experience in studying a different language, not English, like, I don't know, Dutch, German, French, Italian, any kind of language, Chinese. Yeah. What type of environment would be the most productive for you?
I'm an experienced learner. I studied, I don't know, 7 or 8 languages. It's hard to count. So I'm good at languages, and I think I'm bad at math. I cannot count it. And yes, for me, I like challenges. So for me personally, high challenge was always motivating. And speaking of high support, I needed it sometimes, but sometimes I just needed to know that the support is there. But I tried to do something more by myself. And if I faced some problems, I knew who to ask for help and for support. So just not always I needed to continue support. Sometimes I needed just the knowledge that in any case I can ask for support.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And this is what we're talking about. Yeah, if we face some obstacles, we have to have a teacher who would tell us what to do. Otherwise, we are in frustration or blindness. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else? Maybe you have a different opinion. Anyone? Tatiana, Polina. Okay, so I think that basically, yeah, we all share the same opinion about this. There must be challenge and there must be support. Otherwise, like, we're not studying, we're not teaching anything, and the student doesn't learn anything. We're just, wasting some time, I would say. Time and money and effort. Yep. So it's kind of obvious that we have to give support and we have to give challenge. So authentic materials, at least some of them, is a must, and support is a must. But the next logical question is what kind of support to provide and how to do that. Okay. Let's take a look at this little pyramid. We divide all of the types of support into three little categories. Yeah, from learning strategy support, effective support, and cognitive support. Learning strategy is basically how to study. If the person doesn't know how to learn the words, how and why to do the homework, or what to do during the lesson, well, it's not the time to use authentic materials. If the student has some problems with self-confidence, it's really shy or anything like that, having problems with motivation, very disengaged, anything like that, again, we're coping with some psychological aspects of teaching, and again, this is not the time to provide authentic materials. But when we cover those two little steps, we get to cognitive support and content learning per se, which is what we are talking about right now. So cognitive support in this respect is something that would help the student understand what's going on. Basically, cognitive support increases the level of understanding the material. Yeah? It makes the student apply creativity, logic, and close examination. How to do that? The next question, yeah, because this is just theory. For example, you have a 20-minute long Game of Thrones inside the episode YouTube video. A very important video, type of a video for me. The first one that leapt into my mind. And you have a low-level student, for example, pre-intermediate, elementary, who wants to watch this video. You know that, but presumably in Russian. And you want to ask the student to get the student to work with such kind of material in English. And of course, it's kind of an obstacle, yeah, because there is going to be lots of language that is unknown and unfamiliar for such a student. And we would need to kind of dance around this fact to get the student to do at least something with such a video. So let's dive into some practical advice a little bit. Here we're using Bloom's taxonomy to build tasks of different levels, and I would say that this is a lifesaver. At least it's my lifesaver when it comes to creating such tasks. Basically, Bloom's taxonomy is a set of hierarchical models used to classify educational learning objectives into different categories, different steps depending on complexity and specificity. And this particular thing, this particular part of this taxonomy of this system is a cognitive domain. Again, we're not going to dig deep into how and why it works, just because it's not the point. We're just going to try to tackle it, to apply it right away. So why I say that this is a lifesaver? Because it shows what our brain does when we see the information, any type of information, for the very first time. When we see the rule for the very first time, when we see unknown vocabulary for the very first time, when the student does, we have to remember it at first. Then we have to understand it. At first we would, for example, pay attention to spelling, then we pay attention to meaning, then we try to apply it, then we try to analyze the context, then we try to create some, some materials, some sentences by ourselves. So from remembering to creating. Basically, this is the tool that we're going to try right now, to apply right now in creating different tasks. The point in here is to adjust the task, not the content. It might be a little bit bizarre, it might be a little bit far-fetched to use authentic materials according to this little, model, and to use the same task with different levels of students, from elementary to proficient, I would say. But this is what we do in our news section in the platform. Media, news, and all of the new lessons based on news. We use the same materials, but in a different way. We might cut the video short, we might cut the article short, but it's going to be the same topic, the same article, the same language. Just in a different way, but different types of exercises. How to work with that and how to apply that. Basically, here we have this principle written in here. I'm not sure whether you can see it because of this list. The higher the language command of your student, the higher you can go with this pilot. For example, we're talking about the same video, Game of Thrones, inside the episode, 20 minutes long. If you have an elementary student, the level of the task shouldn't be higher than remembering. Understanding would be maximum. Just let's stick to remembering. What you can do, what kind of task you can create. The task might be to list all of the characters mentioned in the video, to count how many times they used a verb in past simple, or to describe how the filming location looks like in the video. Yep, why not? To list, to find, to name, identify, locate, describe, memorize, and define. I don't know, if you have any other kind of the video, you would ask the student how many times they pronounce the word cat. Like anything like that. It's just to apply some logic, just to apply some attention, nothing more, because it's very, very easy. We're not asking the student to do anything else because we know that he or she will not understand anything else. But if we have the same kind of material, but let's say an upper intermediate or advanced student, we would go higher. It would be quite safe to use these little tasks, creating, evaluating, analyzing. And example task might be comparing. Compare how they shot the scenes for this character and this character. Or you hear 3 speakers in this video. Compare their accents. How and why they're different. Tell me. Or you saw how they were filming a scene in this particular location with these particular characters. Let's create a dialogue for them. Something like this. So again, here we're following such a rule, adjusting the task, not the content, so that the student at least the student is able to do at least something with this material. That's all about this little taxonomy, this little slide. Now, questions. Agree, disagree, maybe you have additional questions, maybe you don't really see how we can adjust the task.
Can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
How does this analyzing and understanding differ? How does analyzing differ from the understanding step?
I would say in understanding we would focus only on some chunks of the language.
Mm-hmm.
In analyzing, we would analyze the real, again,
Like patterns.
Patterns, again, grammar, or the whole, I don't know, like episodes. We would analyze in which content we're using those words. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So understand, just to make create an example, but analyze what is the undertone of this phrase in this particular accent. Yeah, something like this. Anyone else? Any more questions? Ask your questions, because we're going to try to create such tasks in a moment. You have to be prepared. Anyone? Why so silent? Maybe you need some additional clarification.
No, it's basically it's clear as it is. So it's just it's more interesting how to how we can practice it. And so just I'm curious with this task for like a low level student. So for example, to listen for 20 minutes video and ask him to count how many times, for example, cat is pronounced. So in that case, to watch this video, this should be really interesting in first place for the student, because for me this task sounds a bit boring. So how can we tell the student that it's a very interesting task, that watching video for 20 minutes and counting one word, or maybe like two. So maybe we should start with a less time consuming materials, maybe 3, 4, 5 minutes. Yes.
Yeah, thank you for bringing this up. Of course, yeah, I went to extreme, yeah. But if you have a fan of Game of Thrones, they would love it.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Of course, I mean, it's obvious that if we have an elementary student, it shouldn't be that stressful. It shouldn't put that much pressure on them, and the task might be not that time consuming. Yeah. That might be, I don't know, a 2-minute interview, 3-minute interview, whatever, but still a real interview. Yeah. Just make sure that the student would enjoy it, and it would correlate with their interest, or you can focus on the topic of your lesson, or the section you're going through in several lessons.
Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you for your question. Anyone else? Okay, so let's continue then. In this respect, as you can see, where the main the core principle in here is not to create some fake content, not reflecting the real world language, yeah? Because still it's authentic. We have lots and lots of fake content in our students' books. So basically, we don't need to create anything like that. Yeah, it would be just some kind of adapted stuff which doesn't have anything to do with the real world, yeah, real language. Here we're just trying to teach our students not to be afraid, and to do at least something with such videos. Why do I bring up videos? Articles maybe, or podcasts, or films, anything, blog posts, Instagram posts, whatever. you can use this taxonomy in a different way. For example, during the lesson, you might go through all of the lower steps together, and then you can give a homework, a piece of homework, a task that would focus on creating, evaluating, analyzing, or anything like that. Yeah, or you just cover remembering, and you give homework that would be based on understanding. For example, you use an article, you translate all of the words from this article, you use all of the words in this article, but then for homework, you ask the student to give some of the synonyms, some of the explanations in English, paraphrasing, yeah, how this word might be used in the sentence, yeah, if we're talking about applying. Yeah. Try to apply these words in your sentences, yeah. Give me your sentences, anything like that. Or put them in a diagram, group them in different categories, right? So it might also work in a different way if we're not talking about specifically communicating with the students in between the lesson, yeah, but using such materials as a part of the course. Okay, I hope that we understand everything which is put in there. And now let's start. Now it's your turn. Just in a moment, I'm going to send you this link so that you can watch it and come up with a useful exercise. Yes. Just give me a moment. I'm not really okay with using. Okay, so here is the video. Here is going to be an article. And here I will also send you a link to the podcast. Yeah, so in your chat you get 3 links. Did you get them?
No.
Okay,
No.
Okay, I will try to resend them.
Okay.
Yes.
No?
Yes.
Okay.
Excellent.
So
Perfect.
what do we do first? Open
Just a
them?
moment. Just a moment. I'm not really okay with using Zoom. I prefer to stick to Skype, but since we have so many people here, okay. Can everybody see my screen again?
Mhm.
Good. So the first video, I would ask you to watch it. It's short, 1.5 minutes. And then we would think of various specific activities based on this video for different students. For example, someone would pick an elementary student, someone would pick an intermediate student, and someone an advanced student. What kind of task might we ask a student to do if we have such a video, if we've chosen such well video? So I give you 2 minutes, open this link with this video, watch it, and then get back to me, tell me when you're ready, and we'll start discussing.
Should we enjoy it? Or just...
Yeah. Are you ready?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So imagine that you have a student, either elementary or intermediate or advanced, with whom you have lessons once a week for different reasons. Yeah, he or she might be on holiday, or it's just regular schedule once a week, whatever. And you want in the middle of the week, for example, during the break, in between the lessons, you found this little video which is either very interesting for the student or connected to the topic that you're going through. So you know that it's appropriate, it's okay to use it, and your student would be interested. You want to send it, but you cannot send it just like that, because you want to get some feedback from the student during the lesson, or again, during this break between the lessons. You want the student to learn something from it. You want the student to pay attention to it. And you want to create a simple task for this video. So in your Skype chat, for example, in your Vimbox chat, you put this link and the task. Which one? Your ideas?
I can start for elementary. For example, we can form maybe set of 5 questions, like the first one, whom do we call a person who studies connections between humans and animals? Something easy. Or I don't know, again, like as you said before, you mentioned before, how many different type of words connected with animals have you heard in the video? So I think those tasks would be pretty relevant for elementary students.
Agree. Totally. Yeah. Just to find the definition of the word, or just to, spot the words. Agree. Totally. Any more ideas?
We can send it to intermediate and ask to share his opinion, agree, disagree, and share opinion about this video.
Yeah, for intermediate that would be just perfect. Yeah, because that kind of student might also be willing to say something about this topic. Yep. What else can we do?
I think also probably it's more appropriate for advanced to not only give the opinion but also analyze the situation itself, so to give a deeper analysis of what a dog person is, what a cat person is, and maybe to describe himself, so who he sees. He sees himself as a cat person, a dog person, and why. So that based on this video, an advanced student could give a small story about himself, and using the arguments that are from the video, or maybe finding some new ones from his personal experience.
Exactly. Write an essay. Yeah. If the student likes to write essay.
Yes, write an essay.
I think we also can focus on some vocabulary patterns used in the video, like overlap. What does it mean with an advanced student, for instance? So create some exercises, and there are some with multiple choice maybe, so that he understands these terms better and is ready to use them in his essay too.
Yes, exactly. Agree. With advanced students, we can let our imagination go crazy. Yeah, because advanced, come on, they can do anything we want. Yeah.
Also, for I think it's more works for intermediate students. So just 1.5 minutes, not enough for me to give you exact examples of grammar structures that are used in this video. But watch it again and focus more on this grammar structures that can be useful for intermediate students, maybe to repeat, and so give some examples of grammar exercises for him to based on this video.
Exactly.
Actually, I think any level of student can describe him or herself as a cat or a dog person, but the way they will do it is different. So if the elementary student will just use those words given and just maybe rephrase somehow a little bit, we can use this exercise, just like imagine and tell me about yourself as as of a cat or a dog person? What features of character can you list as this?
Exactly. Agree. Totally. So that's just probably, you know, the topic. Dog and cat people.
Yeah.
How can people be indifferent about that? They either love or hate pets. So yeah, definitely. What else can we offer to our elementary students? Because that's, I would say, the toughest student to work with if we have some authentic materials. Because, for example, like, imagine that if you send this video without any comments, you know, oh, I just found a video, it's funny, let's watch it. And the student would text you back saying, well, I didn't actually get a word.
For elementary students, the main task, the basic task for this video, to ask questions. To ask questions. So we need to write some questions, maybe 5 questions, and please ask them.
Ask questions?
Yeah, about this video for elementary students.
So who do they ask?
A teacher, probably.
A teacher, of course. To us. Next class, you can discuss it, but for elementary students, it could be difficult to discuss, and to answer questions is simple for them.
So they answer it, not ask.
Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe.
Well, actually asking questions is a good idea too, maybe. Just like you have watched the video, create like 2 questions.
So no, maybe, yeah.
I just want to comment.
Yeah.
It's an immense idea, yeah.
Yeah,
but it's an immense idea. No, yeah, actually, if we give a short kind of a video or article or podcast, ask the student, like, specify exactly what you didn't understand, what words you didn't understand, and what words you got from there, yeah? For example. Or you can also focus on the visuals. How many dogs did you see in this video?
Yeah.
How did they look like? Like, do you know any names of their breeds in English? Yeah, let's try to find them all in the dictionary, and prepare the list of the breeds in the for the next lesson. Yeah. Why not? Yeah, just focusing on visuals. It's way simpler to use videos in such respect, because we have visual picture and something to rely on, because the most part of the information that we get, it actually comes from our eyes. Exactly. Any more ideas?
Maybe we can find just make some sentences with their gaps and try and ask the elementary student to fill in the gaps. So just it's more about our creativity. And so if we, based on this video, we can maybe like between dog and cat. So it's good to revise some prepositions. So
yeah, exactly.
Some words, yeah.
Exactly. We can give a list of words, or we can give a task, again, for elementary, to find 7 or like 10 or 5, whatever, words that you didn't understand at all. Find them in your Wimbox dictionary and add them to your dictionary. I will check, and during the next lesson, I will explain all of them to you. We will work with them. Or you can link it to a specific topic. For example, prepositions. Find 5 prepositions in this video, write them down, and next lesson we'll discuss. Anything like that. Or how many times they, again, I'm repeating myself, how many times they used past simple, or how many times they used S ending in present simple. Yeah, if we have a student who doesn't believe that S ending is necessary. Just to demonstrate. But of course, again, the main pitfall here is that we might have the student, freaking out about the fact that they didn't understand something. Just be sure to explain that they don't have to understand every single word. Maybe you would need to drag them into your methodology, discussing such questions with them. For example, do something similar during the class and then ask them, was it necessary to understand every single word? Was it necessary to listen to it twice? What changed after we listened to this video or this recording twice, right? So just get them to understand what you're doing and why you're doing that. And that would be just the perfect start. Okay, then the next task. About reading. That is an article about sleeping tips and tricks. Again, you have the same situation. You have a student with whom you think it might be appropriate to use such an article. It's either connected to the topic or relevant for the student. You want to send it, and to make sure that the student reads it actually and works with it just a little bit, you have to give a kind of task. What would it be?
So this big text is the material we actually send, or we base ourselves to make something, yeah?
You can cut it short if you think it's too long.
Yeah,
Or you can work with it during the lesson as a kind of preparation.
So it can be just a question first, just for example, to an elementary student, like, do you sleep well? And what do you have any problems? Do you want to get rid of them? And then just give a list, maybe top 5 recommendations to cut the text and to put it in. To give him a pre-reading to understand some terms, maybe, and then just to actually let him read it.
Yep, exactly. So we pre-teach all what's necessary. Yep. Exactly. We may cut it short so as not to puzzle the student completely, and then leave him or her with something that he or she can do.
I agree that for elementary students we have to cut it short and maybe divide in some parts and give it in a couple of times, or just to choose top 5 or top 4 options and give to student. Also as a task after understanding what is written there, so we can ask him to set his own priorities and to put it in the correct form as he sees it as it is more important for him to have what's here, like to exercise daily, to have a sleep schedule, something. So what is more important for him personally, and what maybe steps he follows, and what he needs to improve and pay attention more in his daily routine.
Yeah, exactly. Agree.
Just applying it into his own practice, this will help him to understand it more, I suppose.
Yep, exactly. So as not to puzzle them completely, we can just send this article, ask to focus only on the headings, like the name of this particular, like the piece of advice, yeah, not the explanation. And then we would get the student to open up this piece of advice according to their mind, according to what they think is appropriate, according to how they can open this, how they can interpret this. Not reading the text specifically. At least they're doing something. Are there any grammatical exercises we can devise?
The first is giving instructions, for example. And yes, there's like if conditional sentences, also conditional grammar, and yes, just some comparative adjectives.
Yeah, I agree.
Folded phrases are important and interesting to analyze them.
Exactly. For an elementary, what I would do, I would take all of the, maybe not all, like I would take a paragraph, take all of the verbs out, just give the infinitives and ask the student to put them back into the text. Yeah. They are mainly in present simple or past simple as far as I remember, so an elementary student would cope with that. Yeah, and then I would just say that, well, you actually worked with a real article. Yay, you tackled this.
But the simplest question is, do you agree with the offer? And is it really useful to follow the advice?
Yeah, exactly. But of course, you have to make sure that the student really, understands.
Yes, it may be for intermediate or even for advanced students. Yeah.
Yeah, for an elementary, it would be a little bit too difficult.
Of course, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, what else can be done?
Yes, for high-level students, we can also give grammar exercises to put verbs in the correct form. Just not use the more difficult grammar structures, not just present simple. So, and maybe some prepositions. So what else? That or this like. I can find an example, but yes, some words like I don't remember exactly how it's the grammatical rule when we use it's like go out, like come in, come out, and they change the meaning of the verb. So we can yes, so we can use that. So based on the grammar experience and on the level of the students, if we know that he should know it or we still didn't study this material. So if it's common for him, so we can do this exercise as well.
Yeah. Okay. Another idea I got. Elementary students, sometimes they struggle with the structure of the sentence, with the word order. Send this article, for example, ask to focus on the first paragraph and ask to underline subject, predicate, and object, and then compare. Not translating, not doing anything else, or it might be a homework, so that they can use the Google Translator to translate all of that stuff in there. But to underline subject, predicate, object, and then you would discuss and come to a conclusion that word order is the same in all of the sentences. Doesn't matter what we're talking about. With some of the exclusions, of course.
And for elementary students, it's an excellent opportunity to learn simple, present simple and present continuous tenses.
Yep.
To find them, underline, to learn.
Yep, exactly. Again, we would need to make sure that the student realizes that if it's an elementary learner, they cannot get it from the very first attempt. They will need to use the dictionary, maybe even Google Translate. Let them do so in such a way, but they shouldn't be worried about this. Okay, so I see that it's 8:55. If you have to go, you can go. You would get the recording of this meeting. So, yeah.
Thank you.
We still have a couple of tasks to do.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. Very useful.
Okay. Thank you. So all of those who are staying for 10 or maybe maximum 15 minutes, not more. Podcast. a podcast, piece of a podcast. That's 1 minute long, as far as I remember, about how kids can help design cities, urban planning. Listen to it if you haven't listened to it yet, and then come back to us to work on some specific exercises. Are you ready? Ready? Anyone? Hello there. Are you ready? Anyone? Say something. We have 8 participants left. Yeah, 9 including me. So just like in a workshop. Have you listened to the recording? Such deadly silence. Come on, 4 minutes. 4 minutes have passed. Say something. Have you listened? Are you done? Okay, then we have 6. So just say yes or no.
Yeah.
Someone's deadly silence. What's happening?
Thinking about the tasks for elementary level, because I work mostly with such students, and I don't know how to use it. Maybe to find some familiar words and to try to put them in sentences to get the sense of the audio.
Okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah, with podcasts it's a little bit difficult because it's quite different from video. Again, we're listening, but we don't have any visuals, right? With elementary students, I would say it would be a must to use a transcript, the text, yeah,
I see.
Based on, yeah. And do the same kind of tasks that we did earlier with an article, right? But still, this is what we can do. We can give a list of words, some random words, and some words from this listening, and ask the student to check out the words that have been used. And then ask to translate them, to give definition, to give synonyms, to give opposite words, to use them in a sentence, so that at least the student would have the feeling that they have done something with the podcast. Wow, I listened to the podcast. Oh my God.
That's great.
So great. But still, we understand that it's not actually working with the podcast itself. It's just, you know, creating the visibility that we're working with this authentic material. And that's the simplest task that we can do. What else? If we have an intermediate or advanced.
Sometimes I ask my students to give me the main idea of article or of a video after watching and listening. And even if I have elementary level, they can tell the main idea with present simple, and it will be the great practice for them. And we can check new words, our grammar, and also we can improve this or that skill, speaking or listening, and I do it in this way.
Mm-hmm. Yep, or even writing. Yeah. So
Yes.
Yep, exactly. So asking for their opinion would be an immense kind of task. In here, intermediate, advanced, but again, with such students, it's the simplest option. Yep. Within elementary, we can also ask to locate all of the verbs that they know, to locate again all of the cases when the speaker, the speaker, used the S ending in present simple, to try to locate it, to locate all of the prepositions, to locate all of the possessive pronouns, anything like that. Yeah, if it's a pre-intermediate student, that's a little bit simpler. I don't know, to draw a scheme of a city, of a park that he or she, a student, might create, and then to try to think how a kid might draw a park. Yeah. So kind of to apply the knowledge. Yeah, but in here, if we have a transcript, again, we can use all of the same principles that we mentioned while working on the article. Yeah. We have transcript, we have the text, and audio. This podcast is just some additional practice here to train the words. Yeah. Or you might find some very difficult words, difficult for the student to pronounce, as you think. And then you would ask the student to find them, to locate them in the audio, and then to basically repeat after the speaker how they are pronounced, to make sure that they know how to pronounce such words. Anything like that, yeah, we can do with the audio. Okay. Any more ideas? Okay, so if we don't have any ideas, then we'll move on and start to wrap it up. Again, if you don't get how to create such tasks, use this taxonomy. You can Google it, actually. There are lots of different, you can make a screenshot of it or Google it. There are various interpretations of that, and you might even find the pictures where like, I don't know, like dozens of words are located, and you can use such words to kind of help you to find the inspiration to do the task. Locate all of the prepositions, memorize all of the verbs that they use, find these words that I gave you, or anything like that. Yeah. So definitely use this taxonomy. It's just a lifesaver. And my last question for all of you: would be how to use all of the suggested techniques in or beyond the classroom. Send in the video or the article or the podcast right in between the lessons to the student, yeah, with our task designed. Is it the only way to use such materials? What do you think?
Sometimes we can use them during the lesson.
Exactly.
Just like we do it now, we can send the link, the student listens or reads, looks through the text, and then we discuss it.
Exactly. During the lesson. You can design a wow lesson based on this specific piece of media that you have. Yeah? A long article, a long video, a long podcast, anything like that. Cut it short, break it down into several parts, and build the whole lesson. You can build the whole course, several lessons based on that. You can use it as a warm-up activity, especially with silent students, and especially if you know that they liked this particular task that you sent them. Instead of homework, especially if you get a student who would say, oh, I actually hate doing homework, it's boring, it's not practical, it's just drilling, you know. Students do not do their homework for this particular reason, mostly. Or if you think that this homework in the platform is inappropriate. For example, intermediate lesson number 12 or 13, don't actually remember, about money. In the essay, in the recording task, we have such questions as, what do you think about money? How much money do you get? Do you think you get enough money? What do you think about getting mortgage? Like, I might be mistaken, but to me, those questions are really inappropriate. You can replace them. Additional activity when there is lots of time left, so just like a filler. Additional or alternative revise and check activity. If you do revise and check together, and sometimes such lessons are just boring, yeah, so you may spice them up with the help of such activities. Yeah, the most important and the simplest way to use them is from time to time activity, just to keep in touch. Especially if your student is on holiday, on a business trip, if you just regularly have very rare lessons, once a week or maybe once a fortnight. It's really not okay, but it happens. Or, for example, if you have a student with very specific needs and you understand that the general course doesn't cover them, and you can use such materials to face the needs of your students. And basically that's all. Any questions about this slide? Okay. So basically that's all from me. Thank you all for coming. I hope that you will be able to use all of the knowledge that we discussed, that you got from this webinar. Just remember that authentic materials should be interesting for the student, or at least they must be related to the topic that you're covering. A very good example was given at the very beginning of this webinar. Yeah, medical course, but discussing politics. Oh, no. Build suitable task and try to expand or personalize your course depending on your students' needs. But don't forget about these principles. Create the task, not the text. If necessary, cut it short, but do not try to change it or grade it just because this is, that's the point, to use authentic materials. Pre-teach all that's necessary. Make sure that the student understands that, they don't have to understand every single word, every single grammatical structure in the video or audio or podcast. And always ask whether they liked it or not. That's all from me. Do we have any questions, comments, wishes, any final clarifications needed?
I have a stupid question. Where can we get the appropriate videos, audios, and texts?
On the internet.
I see. Maybe there is some base? Yeah.
Mm,
I mean, in our school.
I don't actually know about our school, but I actually have a list of YouTube channels and some podcasts. You can text me in our, just a moment, in our Skype. Text me in Skype.
Mhm.
Okay, just a moment. Everybody. Text me in Skype. I will send you the list of YouTube channels and podcasts that I use with my students. It might be time consuming to go through all of that, but at least you would get the understanding of, you know, what I use and what I mean here. Yep. Or you can just Google the topic of the lesson and see what's in there, or the interests of the students. So, yep, definitely text me. I will send it to you immediately. Any more questions? Okay then. So thank you all for coming. I hope that I was useful.
Thank you. It was
I hope you didn't
interesting
waste
and
your time.
useful.
Okay then. So thank you all for coming. Again, if you have any additional questions, that's my Skype. Copy it, you know, add me in Skype. If you have any additional questions, text me. And then have a nice day. See you around.
The same to you. Thank
Okay
you.
then.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.